ॐ शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसा मृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इतिर्तिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य मानि ईस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं हगुं देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaramanyānasmat Gurun Santato Manatosmi. Om Vishwam Darpana Dishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahiribodbhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivankuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana Vaichitrya Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vijrambhayatyapi Mahayogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Yasyaiva Sphuranam Sadatmakam Asatkalparthakam Bhasate Sakshat Tattvamasiti Veda Vachasa Yo Bodhayatyashritan Yat Sakshat Karanat Bhavenna Punaravrittirbhavambho Nidhau Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaitam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Nana Chidragatodara Sthita Mahadipa Prabhabhaswaram Jnanam Yasya Tu Chakshuradhikarana Dvara Bahispandate Janamiti Tameva Bhantamanubhatye Tat Samastam Jagat Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaitam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Deham pranamapindriyanapi chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu stri balanda jadopamastwamiti bhranta bhrisham vadinaha Maya Shakti Vilasa Kalpita Mahavyamoha Samharine Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namahitam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Turn this off. So it seems like we're meeting after a long time. 2 weeks ago, we were interrupted by the freezing. We didn't complete the thought. And then last week, I was out of town. But anyway, I hope that we are past some of the technical problems. Raj Paripatyadar has been very, very helpful in trying to figure out. So we have actually revamped the Wi-Fi system. We got a much more powerful Netgear equipment. And then we were having a problem with the camera, which actually ultimately got solved. But we decided that that camera, the Mevo camera, is pretty old. And so we bought a new one. And so hopefully we are now back in business. One thing that would be good to do is to find out if the sound on this new camera is acceptable to you, because this doesn't have a separate wire that brings the microphone closer to me. Here the microphone is already embedded in the camera, which is about 2.5 feet away from me. And so let us know if the sound is okay. I think if it is not, then we have an alternate way of bringing the external microphone. So that would be the only feedback that. But if the sound is okay, then I think we're in shape. Okay, so let us first start with doing the ucharanam for both the sutras, the first one and the second one. So you can just, I'll do that twice and you can just repeat after or with me or after me. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadyasya Yataha, Janmadyasya Yataha. So we are having finished Sutra 1. We are now working on the second Sutra. And here we have pretty much done all the word analysis of the Janmadi, then Asya and Yataha. And if you recall, what we were doing in the last class was, because the meaning of this sutra is to give the lakshana for Brahman. Oh, we saw that lakshana pramanabhyam artha siddhihi, that you cannot establish anything until you have a definition that fits that vastu, that is appropriate to the vastu, and then you have a means of understanding, of apprehending and establishing that vastu. Lakshana pramanabhyam artha siddhi. And so here, the second sutra is devoted to give the lakshana of Brahman, because Brahman is the one, this is Brahma Sutra. And so the whole 555 sutras are to completely define what the Brahman is, what it is capable of doing, and how is the relationship with you and I. All of that has to be done. So with respect to that, the first thing very simply is, what is the unique lakshana for Brahman? This is the second sutra. Then the pramana for that will be in the third sutra. That we will do later on. So we are still in the second sutra. That being the case, it says, Janmadi asya yataha. Asya means jagataha. Pratyaksha prapanchasya. The thing that we are experiencing in our life every day, morning to evening, night to day, more from young to the old age, up to the death. This entire set of experiences is the Jagat. So of that Jagat, the birth of this whole Jagat and the sustenance of this whole Jagat and the dissolution of this whole Jagat is due to whom is defined as Brahman. This is the meaning of this sutra. Janmadi asya jagataha yataha yasmat karanat tat Brahma. So we have to add tat Brahma. And we will see that very shortly. We're going to go through today the section on actually reading the Shankara Bhashya and understanding the meaning of it. This was not done last week, and so we will do that today. So where we were last time, not last week, but when we met last time, was the discussion. Fine, it is the lakshana. Now, is the lakshana of Brahman, and so it is the cause, it is the karanam. Karanam means the one that causes it, causes the whole world. It is responsible for making it happen. What kind of a karanam is it? Because what we see from our experience is that there are two kinds of karanam. One is the nimitta karanam, which is the intelligence behind the creation. And the other one is the material cause, upadana karanam. This is what we have seen. And so you find that really any sophisticated equipment like this cell phone was created by somebody thoughtfully. It just doesn't happen all of a sudden. It's just happened. No, it's not like that. So it was done very thoughtfully. And then the people that thought of it and created it, and here there are millions of, not thousands of engineers at Apple or other places that have done it. But then the material has to be brought in, the kind of software, the kind of equipment, the all the things that are done in this art. So there are two things involved: nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. So okay, fine. If Brahman is the cause of the world, is it a nimitta karanam or an upadana karanam? So there we saw. This is last week's revision. Just to continue it, that what we see is that the nimitta karanam is only responsible for janma, not the janmadi. Adi means etc. Janmadi means birth, sustenance, and dissolution, all three of them. That's why the word Adi is used. Adi means the one which is the beginning of a three-part creation. So we find in our life that anyone who is a creator is only responsible for creation, not responsible for sustaining it. This is what we find. So therefore, how can you say that Brahman is the cause of Janmadi, all three of them? How can you say that? Because that means that it is not, it is an intelligent cause. And this is where, let's make a note of that. All the spiritual thoughts, all the religious thoughts, in fact, all the religious ones and so on, they do not look into the upadana karanam. We all agree that Ishvara, or whatever, whichever religious name you want to give it, God, is all-knowing and has complete power to create. This we all agree. The question is, where does the material come from? And I'm not quite sure I'm not an expert in other religions, but they kind of skirt that. They don't really look into that. They just say the Ishvara or the God somehow figures it out. But we don't take anything for granted. We have to analyze it. What is the upadana karana? So there, what we find is that in our life, in our experiences, the nimitta karanam and the upadana karanam are separate from each other. So here the argument is, this is an important thing to really understand, that we are talking about an unlimited creation, not a limited creation. This was something that I was very lucky to get from Swami Dayanandji very early. In fact, the very first time I met him, I think I related to you, that my father used to argue with me that how can you say that once people understand who they are, then they are not born again. That means the population should be going down. and then how the population is actually increasing. So this doesn't make any sense. He used to argue with me even after I got introduced to Vedanta by Swami Chinmayananji. And I really wasn't able to quite give that argument back to my dad. And so we used to keep quiet. But then when I met Swami Dayanandji, it just so happened that I asked the same question to him. It's not as though Swami Chinmayanand didn't know it, but somehow I never asked him that question point blank. So when I talked this to Swami Dayanandji, he said to me, first of all, he didn't know who I was, what my background was. And this is the very first couple of days I met him in 1975. And he asked me, what kind of profession are you in? So when I told him an engineer, I'm a master's in computer science, he says, aha, then he understands. He says, do you know the concept of infinity? So I said, yeah, I think I do. He says, this is an infinite world. And just from his saying that, the way he said it, with his assurance, with his smile on his face, not a theoretical thing, but somebody that knows this, made things very clear to me. Instantly. I said, oh my God. So this is an important thing for us to see. This whole creation is explained so many things. There's no limit to it. So all the scientific thing, I think the world is only up to this much, and after that, what? After that, what? There's no limit. There are limitless sources of light. We just have one light from the sun. They're limitless. The number of galaxies is limitless, infinity. The number of jivas is infinite. The number of classes like this, Vedanta classes, where people are trying to understand, is infinite. Everything is infinite. Even the Maya Shakti is infinite. One of the things to look at the Maya Shakti is the kind of problems that one can have in one's life. Physical problems, mental problems, infinite. We have not even, there are new diseases, there's new COVIDs that are going to come. They're there lurking in the background. It's never going to say, okay, now we have covered it, I think from now on we are okay. No, infinite. So this is an important thing. So if the creation and the very Purusha, the very Vastu, Brahman is infinite, that means Purusha has to be both the Nimitta Karanam as well as Upadana Karanam. This is an important thing to see. And it's possible. This is the Shruti. The Yukti part is that it is possible. We see it. We see it in our dreams. So it's not as though the example is not there. You cannot say, no, that's impossible. No, we cannot visualize it. Yes, we have our experience every day. I am the Nimitta Karanam and the Upadana Karanam on my dreams. I am creating the dream out of myself. And I'm visualizing the dream by myself. And that is done in a kind of a limited way. Every one of them has this our private universe at night time. But this whole Jagat is the Karanam. The Brahman is the whole Karanam for this whole Jagat. And it has to be both Nimitta, Upadana, Karanam. So that means that you cannot challenge it because the cases are different. It is not a limited, it is an unlimited thing. So this is what we saw. All right, so now there's another important thing to see. I don't know if we can get to it today or not. So So this one important thing to visualize here, to see, understand, not visualize, to understand, is this thing about nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. The second one is the lakshana of Brahman. Is it a tatastha lakshana or swarupa lakshana? It is a relative definition or an absolute definition. So the relative definition means incidental. Like you can say that my house is the one where you see the crow sitting on it. So the other houses that may look alike don't have a crow sitting on it, so you can distinguish my house from the other houses by the virtue of the fact that on my house there is a crow sitting. This is called an incidental lakshana. The Swarupa Lakshana is you look at the house regardless of the crow, because the crow can fly out any minute. Doesn't mean that you change the definition. So now you have to establish the coordinates of the house, and that is a Swarupa Lakshana. So here is this Vakya, is this mantra, Janmadhyasya Yataha. Does this provide Tatastha Lakshana or Swarupa Lakshana? So as this will be revealed, it obviously presents Tatastha Lakshana, right? How? Because it says, just like an incidental incidental crow is sitting on the house, you can say the one from whom all this creation and sustenance happens. So the creativity and the sustenance and the dissolution capability of Ishvara, of Brahman, is incidental. It is not the Swarupa. But to enter into the Swarupa, you have to first go one step at a time and look at Tatastha Lakshana. So once the Tatastha Lakshana is understood, then we can derive from it the Swarupa Lakshana. And so this will happen over time. So this is another thing to keep in your mind as to what it is. And this is another important thing that will happen again. The third important thing is that the Brahma Sutra, this we will hopefully come by the end of the class today, if not the next class. This is a separate topic that we are going to focus on. The Brahma Sutra is a Vedanta Sutra. It is not an independent Anumanam. It is not a brainchild of Vyasacharya. So I think we have touched on this before, but this should be kept in mind. Brahma Sutra, in fact, is nothing but a summary of what the Upanishads are pointing out. So the Upanishads are the source Vidya. And everything else, including the Brahma Sutra, and certainly the Smritis like Bhagavad Gita and Manusmriti and so on, is derived from the original. So the Brahma Sutra is actually following the precepts of the Upanishad. And the reason I'm bringing it out here, this will be brought up in much more clarity later on when we do the ending part of the second sutra. That will come maybe probably in the next class. But the reason I'm pointing this out here is because this Tatastha Lakshana and Swarupa Lakshana is also the way it is presented in our Upanishads. So there, In the Taittiriya Upanishad, as many of you may have seen, we have covered that in the Taittiriya Upanishad. There is a dialogue between Father Varuna and his son Bhrigu. So Bhrigu is interested in finding out the truth about himself as been revealed by his father called Brahman. You are Brahman. Tattvamasi. You are the very Brahman. You are not separately from you. It is nothing but you alone. But this fact is not easy to grasp. And so Bhrigu asks him, "Can you please teach it to me? Because I don't get it yet. I have Shraddha in you. I know you are a wise person. So it's not as though I'm doubting it, but I don't get it at this point. Can you please teach it to me?" So Varuna provides the Tatastha Lakshana first. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. From which all these things come about. And he says, think about it. And from that Tatastha Lakshana, in a step-by-step fashion, Bhrigu comes back and says, is it annam? Because I find everything that I see is born out of food, and it is sustained by food, and it goes back to the food. We know that. He thought about it all and said people are born because of the food, annam. They are sustained by food and they get dissolved back into the food. So annam must be Brahman. So his father says, good, but not good enough. Think again. And then there is this whole thing about Panchakosha Viveka, where the annam is just the outside. And then inside of that is the prana. Inside of that is the manaha. Inside of that is the vijnanam. Inside of that is ananda. And so this is what we are going to cover in more specific details in the Tuesday night class. But so the ultimate aim of everyone, the ultimate is not just annam or manaha or vijnanam or pranaha, it is anandam. And in the very end, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says, Anando Brahma iti vyajanat. Anandadhi khalu imani bhutani jayante. Anandena jatani jivanti. Anandam pratyabhivashanti. Saisha bhargavi vidya. Parame vyoman pratisthita. Yo evam veda pratitishthati. Annavan annado bhavati. Praja bhavati. Prajaya Pashubhi Brahma Varchasena Praja Kirtya. He says this is the end. Really, our source is nothing but Brahman, whose the form is Ananda. And then we are covering it with lots of other doubts, and we become it appears to be non-Ananda. Like clouds cover the sun. It doesn't mean that the sun has disappeared. They are just temporarily covering it, and when it is uncovered, you gain your understanding that I am nothing but Ananda alone. So that is the Swarupa Lakshana. So we start with Tatastha Lakshana, and then we derive from it step by step the Swarupa Lakshana. Anyway, that will come later on, but I wanted to point that out. Okay, you know what we should do now is to actually go to the Shankara Bhashya, because that has not been done yet. So let us do that. And then we will close this. And we will summarize a few more things here. So let me open the page where, yeah, this page. All right, so let's do this. Now we will actually go to the Shankara Bhashya of the second sutra. So I think we will do quite a few. What time is it? 8:34. Yeah, we have enough time. So we will do quite a few of these sentences, perhaps the entire first paragraph. So on the Shankara Bhashya that I gave you, that was page number 7, which starts with the Janmadhyasya Yataha. So this is called Janmadi Adhikaranam. So that's, as you know, these in the first 4 sutras, each sutra itself is an adhikaranam, as we have already pointed that out. Later on, one sutra can have multiple adhikaranams. Adhikaranam means a topic. But the first sutras, being the most important, have one adhikaranam for each sutra. So this is called Janmadi Adhikaranam at the very top. Okay. So what I will do is, for the ease of your translation of these, I will look up each sentence and relate it to Swami Gambhirananda, I forgot his name, Swami Gambhirananda ji's book. So which is on page 13 of this book. Okay, so let's start with that. Janma utpattihi adihi asya iti tadguna samvigyano bahuvrihi. So he says, this is a bahuvrihi. Bahuvrihi is a Panini grammatical term which says that here tat guna samvigyana bahuvrihi means that when you say, for example, let me give you an example. The white horse runs. Yeah, Swami Vivekananda has given a very good example. If you look at the very bottom of page 13, so Bahuvrihi means you can define a Bahuvrihi with just the guna, just the qualities. You can say, like for example, if you are attending a race horse event and there are different colors of the horses, you can say the white wins. The white one. Who won? The white one. So here there is white is a guna. So this is a quality and there is no dravya. There is no vastu which is being presented. You don't say the white horse runs, you say the white runs. But it is implied that the horse is running. So you can have a bahuvrihi where both the dravya and the guna is there, or just the guna is there. Either one of from the context you can figure it out. So here Swami Gambhiranand has given a very good example. He says, in Pitambaram Pashya, Pitambaram Pashya. Pitambaram means the one who is wearing yellow clothes is called Pitambaram. See the man with the yellow cloth. The man is known along with the yellow cloth. Okay, so here both the man as well as the clothes that he is wearing are both there. But in Drishta Samudram Anaya, Drishta Samudram Anaya says being Bring the man, anaya means to bring. Bring the man who saw the sea. Just like, for example, this is really interesting, goes back to my, when I was a college student in Bihar on my BIT, and I was about maybe 20 years old, maybe 19 years old. I don't forget whether I was there on my sophomore year or I had never seen the sea. I mean, this happens to so many people. It's not as though I was unique or anything. But being from Punjab and Delhi in the north of India, we had seen lots of mountains, but never the sea. The sea was something that we had heard about. And I remember when we took a college tour, this was a conducted tour, and we went to Mumbai. And we saw the sea for the first time. What a sight it was. So now that I have become a direct seer of the sea, I can describe, you've seen the seas, and so you can describe. One who has not seen the sea can only describe it rather indirectly. Oh, it's supposed to be very big, this, that, or the other. But the sound and the experience of standing there is something unique. So here, this is what he's saying. He says, Drishta Samudram. Samudram means the sea. Drishta means one which is seen by whom. Anaya. So here he says, in this example, bring the man who saw the sea. The man alone can be brought, but not the qualifying clause. You cannot bring the sea. See the difference? In the case of Pitambaram Pashya, bring the yellow horse. Oh, I'm sorry. Bring the man with the yellow cloth. Here, the yellowness of the cloth and the man who's wearing it both are referred to. But in the second example, which says Drishta Samudram Anaya, you can only bring the man but not the sea. So, in this one, Brahma is Tat Guna Sambhigyana Brahuvihi. So, this is the first type, not the second type. So, it means Brahman who is responsible for Janmadi. This is the Bahuri. Okay, this is the grammatical meaning of it. Everything has to be precise in this analysis. Then the next sentence, Janma Sthiti Bhangam Samasa Artha. So this is Samasa. Samasa means it's a conjunct consonant, a conjunct grammatical construction. And in the Samasa, there are three things here. Laya has been replaced by Bhangam because he wants to convert that into neuter noun. So Janma Sthiti Bhangam is Samasa Artha. That is the meaning of the Samasa. That's what Adi Shankara is saying. Now, the next sentence is interesting. Janmanas chaditvam shruti nirdesha apeksham vastu vritta apeksham cha. Janmanas chaditvam aditvam shruti nirdesha apeksham vastu vrittau apeksham cha. So he says the aditva means the very beginningness of this compound denoted by janma. You see what I'm saying is interesting. So it can be a question, why are you starting this with janma? Why can't you say sthiti, sthityadi? Why can't you say layadi? Why do you have to say janmadi? Why is janma the very first one that is pointed out? He says the reason for that is, this is what Adi Shankara is saying, janmanascha aditvam. the beginningness of Janma is with respect to what the Shruti says. Again, Brahma Sutra is not an independent work, it follows the Shruti. This point is going to be emphasized again and again. So, the Adi Shankara and Vyasacharya and all the other acharyas did not start anything. They were born into the same Vidya. They simply understand it. No one started it except not even Ishvara. It has been with Ishvara forever. There's no start of Vidya. Vidya is already there. It can only be revealed. Therefore, the Shruti is the one that we have to really follow. And the Shruti also says the same thing. Just yato va imani bhutani jayante. They don't say where is it situated. Where was it born? So the born is always the first one. So this is with respect to Shruti Nirdesha Apeksham. Relative to what the Shruti is saying, this is the right way to do it. What is the right way to do it? That Janma is the one that is the Adi, not the other two. And not only that, he says, Vastu Vrittau Apeksham cha. He says, even in our life, we do the same thing. We cannot visualize the sthiti or the laya unless the thing has been born. In fact, let's read the Swami Gambhirananda's explanation of this. I think I read that last night and it made sense. He says, the mention of birth first is in accord with the statements of the Vedic texts and the nature of things. Nature of things. Nature of things means that unless something is born, you cannot really visualize it. Okay. Then the next one. And then, as though this is an explanation. So, janmanas aditvam shruti nirdesha apeksham vastun virtao apeksham cha. Then he explains it. Adi Shankara explains this. Shankaracharya ji. Shruti nirdesha tavat yato va imani bhutani jayante. I already quoted that. Iti asmin vakye janma sthiti pralaya yam krama darshanat. So I'll read the whole sentence one more time. Shruti nirdeshas tavat yato va imani bhutani jayante iti asmin vakye janma sthiti pralayayam krama darshanat. So he says that there is a krama, there is a sequence of janma, sthiti and laya. So he says that. Vastu vrittamapi janmana labda sattakasya dharminaha sthiti pralaya sambhavat. Beautiful. The second one is now explained, which is, second one means the vastu vritta. Vastu vritta means that you cannot even think about something unless you first think about how it was born. Vastu vrittamapi janmana labda sattakasya dharminaha sthiti pralaya sambhavat. Let's see the English translation of that. As for the nature of things, a thing that has come to exist through birth can have continuous and disintegration. Continuance and disintegration. Okay, so that's the example. We're just talking about, right now we are just talking about Janmanadi. Everything is just analyzed up to until you no need to do it anymore. Very precise. Okay. Then, Shashti Janmadi Dharma Sambandharthaha. So Shashti here means Asya. Sixth grace is always a connection of what? So that's what he's saying. Shashti Janmadi Dharma Sambandharthaha. Yataha. So he explains the word yataha iti karana nirdesha. We've already seen this, that yata means karana. Yasmat karanat. Then, very interestingly enough, Adi Shankara puts it all together in a complete sentence. Because the sutra being very alpaksharam, very few words, but you have to supply the obvious words to complete the sentence. And Adi Shankara does this. So look at the next sentence. Asya jagataha nama rupabhyam vyakritasya aneka kartra bhoktra samyuktasya pratiniyata desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya manasapi achintya rachana rupasya janmasthiti bhangam yataha sarvajnat sarvashaktehe karanat bhavati tat brahma iti vakya sheshaha. One more time. Asya jagataha nama rupabhyam yakritasya aneka kartrabhokta samyuktasya pratiniyata desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya manasapi achintya rachana rupasya janmasthiti bhangam yataha sarvajnat sarvashaktehe karanat bhavati tad brahma iti vakya shesha. So vakya shesha means that this is what the remainder of the sentence is. You should see that. That is the meaning of it. What is it? So now he says, completes it. Asya jagataha. Asya means of whom? Jagataha. Of this set of experiences. What kind of experiences? Nama rupabhyam vyakritasya. One which has been made from advaya into dvaya. Vyakritasya means one which has been made into pieces. Just like, for example, in the dream, you start, when you go to sleep, you are nothing but one consciousness, undifferentiated. Avyakritasya. Then in the dream, you make it into vyakrita. Vyakrita means you differentiate it. You have the ability to say, I am the dreamer, this is the dreamt. You don't say, I am the dreamer, you say, I am such and such. These are the things. You have a number of so this is what is called from Advaita. You becomes an experience of Dvaita. So that's what it is. Asya jagata nama rupabhyam. Nama rupabhyam means that once that has a name, it has a form, and the name and the form are not independent of the substance, but just like, for example, if you have an ocean which is very calm, like a lake, and all of a sudden when the wind comes, then you have so many waves that come about. And so this is called vyakritasya. So, aneka kartra bhokta samyuktasya. And so now, just like you have various waves that are formed, each with its own personality, similarly, you and I are born that have a certain personality associated with us. And what is the nature of the personality? Bhoktritvam and kartritvam. Kartritvam and bhoktritvam. So the differentiation is, from one Brahman Anandam, a differentiated human being has a feeling, I am separate from everybody else. I am responsible for my life. I am the one that is negotiating my life. I've got to take care of my health. I have to take care of my job. This is my family. And then I also reap the results of that kartritva. And really speaking, what I don't realize is that this kartritvam, bhoktritvam is just mithya. I am neither a karta nor a bhokta. That is my reality. But until I figure that out, I am a bhokta, I am a karta. So he says, Jagataha nama rupabhyam vyakritasya aneka kartra bhoktra samyuktasya. One which is united with this quality. This is the quality of ahankara. So the ahankara, when the ahankara dissolves, there is no kartritvam, bhoktritvam. Like for example, in deep sleep, there is no ahankara. So you cannot do anything in deep sleep. You don't have any results of your past karma in deep sleep. Ahankara is gone, bhoktritvam, kartritvam, bhoktritvam both dissolve. Okay, so on. Then the next thing that is pratiniyata desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya. So Adi Shankara introduces an important guna for Brahman. So all this is tatastha lakshana of Brahman. Remember this? So in the tatastha lakshana you have creation, you have dissolution, you have sthiti, all of that. And part of that is that in the sthiti karanam, in the running of the karanam, there is pratiniyata desha kala nimittam. So this is an important thing to see. So here Swami Dayananji used to use this to use this concept in pointing out, please see the intelligence of Ishvara in the form of the order in the universe. So the word order means orderly. It is dependable. It is not random. It is not incidentally undependable. It's not like that. Somebody is in charge. So that is called niyata. This is an important word in the Vedanta Shastra called niyata. So prati niyata means that for each one of us, we should see that we are born into an order. And order means what? Order means a certain dependability of how the world runs. And so, for example, this was Swami Dayananji's favorite example. The water boils at 100 degrees centigrade every time, all the time. Given the sea level, the water when Rama and Sita were born boiled at 100 degrees centigrade. And long after you and I are gone, it will still boil at 100 degrees centigrade. This is the order. It's not as though in America it boils down at 104 degrees, in India it boils at 68 degrees, in Africa it boils at 200 degrees. Nothing like that. So the sunrise and the sunset, the seasons, how the blood runs, how the heart beats, there is a certain order to it that we should appreciate. Unseen. Not as though we can see somebody sitting there making sure that the boiling starts. It just is automatic. Swami Chinmayananda used to say that. I remember this so well. He says, Vishnu, Lord Vishnu is depicted as sleeping on this naga, this huge snake, and he's just resting on it with his eyes closed. What it really means is that Ishvara, in the form of Vishnu, has designed this whole earth with the order, with the niyata, pratiniyata, deshakala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya, by the niyata, and it just runs by itself. You don't need to call Vishnu unless you are in great distress. And then then he'll come to your aid if you need to. But otherwise, the order of the universe is all that you need to follow. If you follow that, you're going to be okay. Don't need to question it. Don't get perturbed that who's in charge. I wonder if the world is mistreating me. No such thing. And so this is what is called kriya phala ashrayasya. You do some job, and the phala is given to you right there and then. So this is important tatastha lakshana of Brahman. So pratiniyato desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya. Here Swami Paramarthananda had given a very beautiful example, really lovely. He says, look at this. What an intelligent use of the same thing providing a different results for different people. You look at the intelligence of doing this. How? So, he had given a different, Swami Paramarthananda had given a different example, and I'll give a couple of different examples to illustrate that. Swami Paramarthananda says that if somebody comes to this Brahma Sutra class and he really enjoys it, you have already done some prior work and you are understanding what is going on and you're really enjoying it. And you ask a friend of yours who you know very well, hey, so you have to come to Swami Paramarthananda's Brahma Sutra class. He says, I don't know, I am pretty busy and I'm not sure that I'm really interested. And he says, no, you come please. You'll really, this is very reasonable and you are a very intelligent person. You will enjoy it. So he says, okay, just to please you, you are a big friend. He brings it to the class. Swamiji says, now I start teaching. And you are, the person who brought the friend in is enjoying it. You're writing notes and you're deeply thinking about it and so on. And you glance at the person next door to you that you brought, and the person now shows all the signs of being so bored that he cannot stand waiting for the class to end. He's fidgety and all the kinds of things. You look at your iPhone and then you try to make sure nobody sees that I'm watching the iPhone. You put it, all those kinds of things. So he says, look at this. The same lecture has two different people having different reactions. Swami Dayananji had given this similar example, so I'll bring that out. He says, there are two neighbors. Okay, this is a village example. So there is a villager who has some land, and he's just sowed some seeds of the things. And then next door neighbor, there is another villager who's having his daughter's wedding scheduled for next weekend. Okay, now both of them are praying to God. The landowner says, God, I just put the seeds in. Make sure that you have rains so that I don't have to put water on my own. His neighbor says, oh God, please, my daughter is getting married and I'm inviting hundreds of people outside. I don't have a covering. Make sure you have no rain, okay? I beg you, please, please. I'm a devotee of you and you have to. Now you are the same God. And there are two different people who want opposite things. What are you going to do? So what you're going to do is to base it on people's past karmas. Do they deserve it or not? Isn't it? Why? Because you cannot play favorites. That's not the nature of this is what is called pratiniyata desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya. You cannot play favorites and say, yeah, I like that person. I think I'm gonna just withhold the rain because that marriage is important. This poor guy is gonna lose his. So kriya phala ashraya means this is already done. I have this is the Vishnu. There is already an order in the universe, and you can decide how to play with it, and whatever your karma phala is will decide whether it is going to rain or not. Beautiful example, really. So this is also part of it. Then the next one is interesting. So we've already done asya jagataha nama rupa abhyam vyakritasya aneka kartru bhokta samyuktasya pratiniyata desha kala nimitta kriya phala ashrayasya. Next one is manasa api achintya rachana rupasya. Manasa api achintya rupa rachanarasya means this is what is the tatastha lakshana of the intelligence of Ishvara, the intelligence of Brahman. He says it is unthinkable. You can just visualize it. So Paramarthananda had given an example. He says, even if you look at the chemistry of the brain, because the brain is a very important thing, because in the brain is the mechanism for vyakritasya jagataha. This is where the advaita becomes dvaita. This is the birth of the various thoughts. What a mechanism! Such is such that just the same mechanism is you adopt in your dream. Amazing how we have the capability of coming up with such a vast network of experiences in our dream. It's all from the stored knowledge of the brain. So the brain is something which is an amazing creation of Ishvara. And the scientists can only understand the subtlety of it. You cannot create a brain. If you create a brain, it is just going to be a very poor copy of the real stuff. So achintya rupa rachanarasya. He says, my God, the more you look into this rachana, this creation, the more you say, So this simply gives you an idea of the Sarvangyatvam of Ishvara, Sarva Shaktimatvam Ishvara. This is the Tatastha Lakshana. So that is the next one. Achintya. Achintya means you can hardly even visualize it. All we can do is to keep discovering new and new facts about it. I mean, just imagine how this COVID virus, which is even unseen, can create such havoc amongst us. You know, you might feel, oh, I am a very rich man, or this. It's gone. Just little virus that you were not even aware of. And this is going to continue. Where the viruses are hidden, how they are to be tamed and so on, we don't know. We have to keep discovering it. Manasa api achintya rachana rupasya. Then of course the Janma Sthiti Bhangam. And so now he summarizes it. He says, Yataha sarvagyat sarvashaktehe karanat bhavati. So therefore he summarizes all these things about aneka kartra bhokta samyuktasya, etc. In the two he says, sarvagyaha sarvashakti, achintya rupa shakti, karanat bhavati, tad brahma iti vakya shesha. Then there is some things about the fact. Remember, I think we have already talked about it, that why is he only talking about three things when in fact there is also a bhava vikara which is given by yaska. Why can't you do all the six of them? So he says, no, that's already taken care of. You don't have to do all of that. So that's what he's talking about. Anyesham api bhava vikaranam trishu eva antarbhavaha. It's included in these three. Iti janma sthiti nashanam iha grahanam. So he says here, the taking up just these three is because the other ones are all included in there. Yaska paripatitanam tu jayate asti ityadinam grahane tesham jagatah sthiti kale sambhavyamanatvat moola karanat utpatti sthiti nasha jagatah na grihitaha syuhu iti ashankyetan tanma shanki iti ya utpatti brahmanah karanat tatra eva sthiti pralayate grihyante. It's a long sentence, but the essence of that is that no, we have not neglected to leave anything out. They are included in these three things: Janma, Sthiti, and Bhangam. So that's the meaning of that. Then let's see. Nacha yatha ukta visheshanasya jagataha yatha ukti visheshanam ishwaram muktva anyatah pradhanat acetanat anubhyah va abhavat va sansarino va utpatyadi sambhavayatum shakyam. So now he says, please see that just like we have described Brahman, who is both the nimitta and upadana karanam, who is also the karanam for whose guna is tatastha guna, not swarupa guna. In other words, it's not as though Ishvara is stuck with sthiti and so on and so forth. He is independent. It is just from a standpoint of, just like, for example, your dreaminess is not intrinsic to you. You are separate from it. But as long as you're desirous of having some transactions, you can do so. So similarly here also, the the Ishvara, with all of the gunas that have been pointed out here, is cannot be described any other way. So, for instance, in the Sankhya philosophy, so the Sankhya philosophy is also man-made philosophy. Unlike Vedanta, Sankhya, all the other philosophies are speculations. The word philosophy means speculation. I think I told you this, that this is one of the things that I learned so well from Swami Dayanandji. He never uses the word philosophy. Never. And I don't either. Now I find Swami Paramarthananda, who is the best student of Swami Dayanandji, uses the word philosophy. And I think that is not because he doesn't understand. He completely understands better than I do. But he thinks that the way to communicate to others is to use the word philosophy. But Swami Dayanandji never did. So Sankhya is a philosophy. The philosophy means which is a speculation. Vedanta is not a speculation, it is vidya. Just like you and I are not a speculation, we are real. We are here. So Sankhya says that this utpatti was done by pradhana, by nature. This is a point I think I'm running out of time, and I will perhaps do it some other time. So this is Sankhya philosophy also in that way is a Dvaita philosophy, not Advaita. Advaita means that outside of this infinite creation, there is nothing outside of the infinite creation. The material and the intelligence is all one wool of wax. You cannot have Sankhya which is separate. Similarly, in some of the Western world, God is considered to be, this is an important thing, we'll spend more time on this. God is considered to be all loving. But you have this outside force, devil, which puts spokes into the thing. So that means it's a Dvaita philosophy. That means that the Ishvara is all-knowing and all-Shaktiman and so on, but there is this other devil that we have to take care of. In the Advaita knowledge, there is no devil. It's all part of it. This is talked about in great detail in Rudram, Sri Rudram. We need to really redo Rudram one more time. Even my understanding has gotten better in the last 7-8 years that I did Rudram. So I really want to do that again. So a sense of completion, everything is there in it itself, good and the bad. Unless you accept all of it, you don't have Advaita. So anyway, so that's what he says. That this pradhanat acetanat anubhyaha abhavat va. So you have Naiyikas and you have all these other people. They do not explain in its entirety as the Brahma Sutra does. They leave out certain parts of it. And no, that cannot happen. Anyway, I think I'm overstepped my time, but we're pretty much done with this first paragraph. And now, so basically what Adi Shankara has done in this paragraph is to go word by word to explain what the sutra is. Next week, when we meet again, we will go over some other important topics related to the sutra. Some Purva Paksha that is brought in, answers to that, all of that will be discussed, but the basic word analysis of the second sutra along with the Shankara Bhashya is now pretty much complete. So with that, let me close the class with the second half of the Dakshinamurti Stotra, and then we will see if you have any questions. Om Rahu Grasta Divankarendu Sadrisho Maya Samachadinat Sanmatra Karanopasamharanato Yo Bhut Shushuptaf Puman Pragaswapsamiti Prabodha Samaye Yapatya Bhikyayate Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Balyadishu api jagradadishu tatha sarvasvavasthasvapi vyavrittasvanuvartamanamaham ityantaspurantam sada swatmanam prakatikaroti bhajatam yo mudraya bhadraya tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Vishvam Pashyati Karyakaranataya Swaswami Sambandhataha Shishyacharya Tathaiva Pitra Putradhyatmana Bhedataha Swapne Jagrati Vaya Esha Purusho Maya Paribhramitaha Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambaramahernartho himamshuh puman ityabhati characharatmakamidam yasyaiva murtyashtakam nanyat kinchina vidyate vimrishatam yasmat parasmat vibhoho tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Sarvatmattvamiti sprutikritamidam yasmatamushminstave tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat dhyanat cha sankirtanat sarvatmattvamahavibhuti sahitam syadishwaratvam swataha siddhyetat punarashtadha parinatam chaishwaryam avyahatam Ashubhani nirachaste tanoti shubhasantatim smriti matrena yat pumsam brahmatan mangalam param atikalyana rupatvat nitya kalyana samshrayat smartranam varadatvat cha brahmatan mangalam viduhu omkaraschat shabdascha dvavetau brahmanah pura kantham bhitva viniryatau Tasman Mangilikau Vubhau Omata Omata Omata. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Very good to know that the sound and picture is acceptable. Very nice. Srida, I'm surprised. I thought we had given you the second sutra also. Oh, that's a mistake on my part. Unless I think I thought that I had given the second sutra also as the file attached uh, to the website. In that case, I'm very sorry. I will send it to you. So it may not have been as enjoyable because the reading was with sentence by sentence. So yeah, I'm happy that the technical improvements we made really have worked out well, and I'm very good to see that. Um, I will make sure that I send you the rest of the sutras. I think, I might even have it to all the 4 sutras, and I'll send that to you. And apologize for that. So in the meantime, um, please just review the class based on that. All right, very good to see you all, and look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, Hari Om.